All right, so today we're going to talk about organization of cells, which is something that only applies to multicellular organisms. So for a multicellular organism, or for something with more than one cell, how are the cells organized? Well, first of all, so in a multicellular organism, cells are what we would call specialized. And so what that means is that they have different structures and shapes because they perform different functions. So if we were to come down here and let's just write a few examples on just like the bottom of your paper, write a few examples of what are some cells that you can think of, right? So in the past you've studied systems of the body. I'm sure you can think of certain cells. So I could think, well, there are muscle cells, right? You have bone cells, which can be called osteocytes. You have white blood cells. These can be called leukocytes. Okay. And so you're going to have all kinds of different cells. You could also say you have lung cells, you have brain cells, or called neurons, right? So you have lots of different types of cells. So each of these is going to look different. I did post an example where you can look at muscle cells, bone cells, white blood cells online if you want to go ahead and look at some different types of tissues. They have pictures of these taken with microscopes. So if you're interested in that and you want to see how different functions on cells actually look translates to them looking different, you can get an idea of what some of the specialized cells are. So we have these specialized cells, and we are going to have them in different parts of the body. So we're going to collect similar cells together. And so a collection of similar cells is going to be called a tissue. There are many types of tissue in the human body. You could also put this in just like an animal body. Oops, animal. So humans are just one example, but if you wanted to make it more oh my goodness, that is, wow. In an animal, let's try that again. Animal body. So in human and animal bodies, there are many types of tissues. You ready for my favorite type of tissue? See if you can guess what kind of tissue this is. Oh, I don't know if I did a good job with him today. Do you see it? Can you guess his type of tissue? He's a nervous tissue. Get it? I know, you guys are all laughing so hard right now. You're like, Mrs. Carvalho, we've missed your jokes, right? So here's one type of tissue. You really do have nervous tissue in your body, right? It doesn't look like this. It looks like it's made up of neurons, which look more like this guy. You guys might remember studying those in previous years, right? So we take similar types of cells and we collect them into tissues. So if you go back to the bottom of your paper, we could actually talk about some kind of tissues. We're going to have muscle tissue, right? And then you could have bone tissue. White blood cells are weird. They actually become part of something that we call connective tissue. So all of your blood gets to be called connective tissue because it actually is one of the things that helps connect your body together. So when we take our cells and we take similar cells and we organize them, we can organize them into types of tissues. And so we're going to take those tissues then, and they'll be composed of similar cells. So one example of a muscle tissue is muscle tissue made of cells that are specialized to contract their cells. So we have in a muscle cell can actually get shorter or longer. It can lengthen and shorten, lengthen and shorten. And so that's going to be important for muscle tissue. Each of the cells can contract itself. It actually contracts a small unit called a sarcomere inside of the cell. And then the whole cell contracts. And then the muscle cells can contract and actually cause the entire tissue to contract, which is how you can move your body, right? These muscle cells are found in many tissues in the organism's body. Now, if we take tissues and we combine them with each other, if we take specialized structures made of several different tissues, are called organs. So your heart, if we take your heart as an example of an organ, your heart contains not only muscle tissue, but also blood, right? It has blood flowing through it, which is a type of connective tissue. It's going to have blood vessels, which are lined by this stuff that we call endothelial tissue. You can actually feel endothelial tissue. It lines almost all of the things on the inside of your body. So if you take your tongue and you run it along the inside of your mouth, that's similar to the endothelial tissue that you would find inside of your blood vessels lining your heart. And then also you have nerves that help tell your heart when to beat, and those are made of neurons or nervous tissue. Not this guy, this guy. Organs then can also work together. So let's actually take this. So our muscle tissue, right? Let's do this. We take our muscle tissue and we combine it with, let's add connective tissue for blood. And we do nerve tissue. We can get an organ, which could be your heart. And then your heart could be part of a whole system, which would be, right, your circulatory system. Okay, so we could take your heart and we could combine it into a system called your circulatory system. We could take your bone tissue. We could make enough bone tissue to get to, right, an actual bone. And then we could come here and we would have your skeletal system, right? So we get these systems of the body. Systems of the body are organs that work together to perform a function. So for example, your respiratory system is a system that works together to perform the function of breathing. It involves, your trachea, which has to get down to your lungs, your bronchi, which branch apart, and then your lungs individually. And so you have your respiratory system. It all works together. Your digestive system, your stomach, your esophagus, your small intestine, your large intestine, all function together to make up an organ system that digests your food. So you have throughout your body all of these organ systems. So organs work together to perform a function, and they make up an organ system. You have many organ systems in your body. You can probably think of several right now. Two of the main ones I would think of are your respiratory system and your digestive system. If we wanted to list some other systems, you could list your musculoskeletal system. You have one that we're going to talk about next called your endocrine system, which can produces a lot of things that help you grow. And you could have your excretory system, which is like your kidneys, helps get rid of waste that builds up in your body. You have an immune system, which helps fight off sicknesses that might come to your body. Okay, so there are many, many systems. You have a nervous system. And sometimes these systems have organs that overlap. They do jobs in both systems, but we break them down into systems based on what job they do. All right, that's it for today.